Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question that will change the way you look at every relationship you've ever had. What if I told you that the secret to a woman's deepest desire has nothing to do with money, nothing to do with looks, and nothing to do with status? What if I told you that there are 3 hidden places within every woman that, when touched the right way, unlock her mind, capture her heart, and bind her soul to you in ways she cannot resist? Stay with me, because once you understand this truth, you'll never see attraction the same way again. Imagine for a moment that connection between 2 people is like a language that does not rely on words, but is spoken through energy, presence, and touch. Too often, men believe that what captivates a woman is only about appearances, achievements, or material things, but the truth runs much deeper. Women are drawn to something invisible, yet undeniable, the way a man makes her feel in her body, her mind, and her heart. There are unspoken places within every woman, places that, when touched in the right way, unlock her trust, her loyalty, and her desire. If you understand this, you gain something far more powerful than charm or good looks. You gain influence over her emotions, and emotions are the foundation of attraction. The first place is not physical. It lies within the mind. A woman's mind is her fortress, full of thoughts, doubts, dreams, and fears. If you can touch her mind, you break down walls that others cannot. Too many men overlook this, rushing to impress with surface-level gestures, but the man who learns how to touch her mind becomes unforgettable. When you listen without waiting to speak, when you ask her questions that go beyond small talk, when you ignite her imagination with your own vision, you are already standing in a place that most men never reach. Her mind responds to stimulation too. The way a flower responds to sunlight, it opens. This is why women gravitate toward men who challenge their thinking, who make them laugh, and who inspire them. When you awaken her thoughts and feed her curiosity, she starts to associate you with excitement, with freshness, with possibility. Suddenly her world feels bigger around you and she wants you in it. The second place every woman longs to be touched is her heart. This is not about grand declarations or scripted romantic lines, but about consistency, safety, and authenticity. A woman may admire strength, but what bonds her to a man is his ability to show her that strength does not come at the expense of care. To touch her heart, you must know how to be present. You must notice the details, the way she shifts her tone when something troubles her, the moments she hesitates, the times when she needs encouragement but won't say it. When you step in at those points with reassurance, not judgment, you position yourself as someone who sees her in ways the world often overlooks. This kind of touch builds trust so powerful that she begins to lower her guard naturally. Her heart opens not because you demanded it, but because she feels safe enough to give it. And once her heart is touched, her loyalty becomes an extension of her love for you. The third place every woman craves you to touch is her soul. This is where true intimacy lives, beyond physical contact, beyond words, beyond anything you can fake. To touch her soul means to connect with her essence, to remind her of who she truly is when the noise of the world falls away. This requires presence so deep that she feels she can be vulnerable without fear. It means sharing silence without awkwardness, giving without expecting in return, and leading without needing control. When you touch her soul, you reflect her value back to her, not because you want to gain something, but because you genuinely see it. And that kind of connection transforms a woman. It makes her feel chosen, not because you couldn't have anyone else, but because you chose her despite the world of options. That is what awakens devotion. Think about this carefully. Men often chase external validation, looks, status, money, believing that is what makes them desirable. Yet the men who win at the deepest level are those who master this secret language of touch. They understand that the body is important, yes, but only after the mind, heart, and soul have been reached. When you connect on those levels first, physical intimacy becomes not just an act, but an extension of something greater, something she cannot resist. It is why some men are remembered for years, even when they are no longer present, while others are forgotten overnight. The difference is whether you manage to touch her beyond the surface. Touching her mind requires you to keep growing yourself. Read, learn, and develop the ability to hold conversations that go beyond the ordinary. Share your vision of life, challenge her with new ideas, and ignite her imagination. When you expand your world, you expand hers. Touching her heart requires you to be emotionally intelligent. Do not confuse sensitivity with weakness. It is strength to comfort her when she is down, to celebrate her when she wins, and to stand steady when storms come. Touching her soul requires authenticity. You cannot fake presence. She will sense when your actions are driven by ego or manipulation. But when you are aligned with who you are, when your values are clear, your energy naturally speaks to hers. Every woman, no matter how strong, confident, or independent, longs for these three touches. They are not about control, but about connection. They are not about dominance, but about depth. The man who learns to master them rises above the noise of mediocrity. He becomes rare, and rarity is irresistible. Consider this. How many men approach her with empty compliments, shallow conversations, or superficial charm? Too many. And how many men take the time to truly understand her thoughts, soothe her heart, and speak to her soul? Very few. If you choose to be among the few, you stop competing with the many. She will begin to feel something unusual with you: ease, trust, inspiration. Those are the elements that create desire, not just for a moment, but over time. And this is where power lies. Because when you touch her mind, heart, and soul, you don't need to chase her. You don't need to beg for her attention. She will lean in because she feels drawn to you in a way she cannot explain. That magnetic pull is not about tricks or games. It's about alignment with her deepest needs. So ask yourself, are you only chasing the physical, or are you cultivating the ability to reach deeper? Are you rushing to impress, or are you patient enough to connect? Are you stuck on appearances, or are you brave enough to touch her essence? The answers to these questions will determine whether you are just another man in her story, or the man she cannot forget. The secret is not hidden in mystery. It is hidden in mastery. Master the art of touching her mind, her heart, and her soul, and everything else will follow. Because once a woman feels touched in these ways, she does not just want you. She needs you, she chooses you, she values you. And that is where true power in relationships begins. But understand this, power here is not about domination or control. It is about influence, resonance, and connection that goes beyond the ordinary. When you can influence how someone feels about themselves when they are around you, you leave a mark that lingers long after the moment has passed. Think about the people in your own life who left an impression on you, not because of what they gave you or how they looked, but because of how they made you feel. That is exactly the kind of impression you create when you choose to touch a woman at the levels that truly matter. The beauty of this is that it doesn't require you to be someone you are not. It doesn't demand that you become the wealthiest, the strongest, or the most charming man in the room. What it requires is awareness and intention. Awareness of what she really craves beyond the surface, and intention to give it without fear. The man who learns this art becomes rare because he is not trying to perform. He is being present. He is not trying to win approval. He is offering authenticity. Women recognize this instantly. They might not always articulate it, but they feel it deeply. When you touch her mind, you are not just engaging in conversation. You are expanding her horizon. Imagine you speak of possibilities she has never thought about. You introduce her to perspectives that shift her understanding. You challenge her in ways that make her stronger. She starts to see you as more than a man. She sees you as a guide, an inspiration, someone who elevates her world simply by being in it. That is why men who invest in their own growth are far more magnetic. Their depth creates depth in the people they connect with. A woman will remember the man who made her laugh, but she will never forget the man who made her think, who sparked a fire in her imagination, who reminded her that her dreams are possible. When you touch her heart, you transform the way she experiences you. You become the calm in her chaos, the steady hand when life overwhelms her. She feels seen in ways that others overlook. Small gestures make the biggest difference here. A message that tells her you remembered something important. A word of encouragement before she steps into a challenge. A silence that holds space when she needs it. These actions are subtle, but their impact is massive. They send the signal that you are not just present for the good times, but you are a man who can be trusted when the storms come. Yeah, you. Women long for that stability because the world often demands that they carry so much. The man who helps lighten that load doesn't just win affection, he earns devotion. And when you touch her soul, you enter the most sacred ground of all. This is where she no longer feels the need to pretend, to perform, or to hide. You allow her to bring her full self into the space between you without judgment. Think about how rare that is. Most people walk around wearing masks, afraid to be vulnerable. But when she is with you, and she feels she can take off those masks, that is when real intimacy begins. That is when she feels something deeper than attraction. It is belonging. This is not about saying the right words, but about embodying a presence that assures her she is safe to just be. A man who can give that kind of presence becomes unforgettable because he touches the core of her being. Now let's be honest. Many men chase shortcuts. They believe attraction is about quick tricks, expensive dates, or flashy appearances. But shortcuts never build foundations. They may get attention, but they do not build desire that lasts. You must decide whether you want to be a temporary distraction or a permanent presence. If you choose the latter, then you cannot escape the responsibility of learning how to connect on these three levels. It requires patience, growth, and courage. It requires you to face your own fears and insecurities, because you cannot touch another person's soul if you are afraid to reveal your own. This is why self-mastery is critical. Before you can truly touch a woman's mind, heart, and soul, you must cultivate your own. A man without direction cannot inspire her mind. A man who runs from his emotions cannot touch her heart. A man disconnected from his own essence cannot reach her soul. It starts with you. The more you invest in your personal growth, the more powerful your presence becomes. And the more powerful your presence, the deeper your influence. Do not underestimate the power of subtlety in this journey. It is not about overwhelming her with grand gestures or trying to prove your worth. It is about the quiet confidence of a man who knows himself, who walks with purpose, who treats connection as something sacred. When you speak, let your words have weight. When you listen, let your silence have depth. When you touch, whether physically or emotionally, let it come from intention rather than impulse. That is what separates ordinary men from extraordinary ones. Imagine the ripple effect of mastering this. Not only does it transform your relationships, but it also transforms how you move through the world. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop begging for attention and start commanding respect. You stop trying to be liked and instead you become admired. Because the truth is, the qualities that allow you to touch a woman deeply are the same qualities that allow you to succeed in every area of life. Focus, presence, empathy, vision, and strength. These are not just tools for attraction. They are tools for leadership, success, and legacy. Every woman desires to be understood. Every woman desires to be cherished. Every woman desires to be inspired. And every man who learns how to do this gains access to a level of connection that few will ever experience. Think about the relationships that inspire you, the ones that seem magnetic, unbreakable, filled with passion even years later. Those relationships are built on these principles. They are not accidents. They are the result of mastery. The question is, are you willing to step into that mastery? Are you willing to stop operating on the surface and begin reaching deeper? Are you willing to become the man who doesn't just attract for a moment, but captivates for a lifetime? This path is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and vulnerability. But the rewards are beyond measure. Because at the end of the day, women do not fall in love with what you own. They fall in love with how you make them feel. They do not stay loyal because of your status. They stay loyal because of the safety and excitement you provide. They do not remember the things you said nearly as much as they remember how those words touched their heart, how they shifted their mind, how they awakened their soul. When you grasp this, you begin to live differently. You begin to move differently. You stop fearing rejection because you know your value does not depend on external approval. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand your uniqueness is your greatest strength. And you stop trying to force connections because you know that the right ones will naturally gravitate toward your energy. So walk into every interaction with awareness. Ask yourself, am I only appealing to the surface or am I reaching deeper? Because surface level appeal fades, but deep connection endures. And the man who chooses depth over distraction will always stand out in a world that is starved for authenticity. So walk into every interaction with awareness. Ask yourself, am I only appealing to the surface or am I reaching deeper? Because surface level appeal fades, but deep connection endures. And the man who chooses depth over distraction will always stand out in a world that is starved for authenticity. The truth is, most men never realize that the secret to attraction is not performance, but presence. A woman does not fall for the version of you that is trying too hard. She falls for the version of you that is fully aware, intentional, and in control of himself. This means you must learn to slow down. Stop rushing through moments as if the goal is to get to the next stage. Connection is built in the pauses, in the stillness, in the subtle exchanges that many overlook. When you can stand in silence and let your energy speak louder than your words, you communicate strength without saying a thing. That kind of presence touches her in ways that scripted lines never could. When you practice being present, you start to notice details others miss. You hear the slight changes in her voice. You see the flicker in her eyes when she feels something deeply. You sense the energy shift in the room when her mood changes. These details give you the keys to touch her mind, heart, and soul with precision. It is like learning a language without words, and the more fluent you become, the more effortlessly you create connection. She begins to feel that you understand her without her having to explain, and that is one of the most powerful experiences anyone can have. To be understood without explanation creates a bond that feels unbreakable. But let's be clear, this does not mean losing yourself in her or abandoning your own identity. In fact, it's the opposite. You must hold firmly to who you are, to your standards, your purpose, your vision. Because part of touching her deeply is giving her something to believe in, something to admire. If you bend yourself to please her, you stop being the anchor she craves. A woman respects the man who stands tall in his values, who does not compromise his purpose just to be liked. That is strength, and strength is always attractive. Touching her mind means feeding her curiosity, sparking her imagination, and showing her perspectives that make her grow. But that requires that you are growing yourself. A stagnant man cannot stimulate anyone else. Read, explore, travel, create. Become the kind of man who has a story to tell. When you share your insights, not from arrogance, but from genuine passion, she begins to see you as someone who adds value to her life, and people are drawn to value. Touching her heart means being consistent. Any man can show up once, but very few can show up over and over again with reliability. Women do not open their hearts to men who are unpredictable, careless, or inconsistent. They open their hearts to the man whose actions match his words, the man who says he will be there and actually is. Reliability is rare in today's world, and rarity always attracts. The man who keeps showing up becomes the man she trusts, and trust is the foundation of love. Touching her soul requires something even greater. It requires authenticity. You cannot fake soul. You cannot pretend presence. She will know instantly if your actions are calculated or genuine. When you are aligned with your truth, when your energy is pure, when your intentions are not polluted by games, you radiate something magnetic. She will not always understand it logically, but she will feel it deeply. That feeling is what keeps her coming back, what keeps her invested, what makes her believe that she has found something extraordinary. Now here's where most men fail. They focus on outcome instead of process. They are so obsessed with get, something from her that they lose the opportunity to actually connect. Women can sense when a man's energy is transactional, when his actions are driven by an agenda. And the moment she feels that, the magic disappears. The key is to focus not on what you want to take, but on what you want to give. Give presence, give inspiration, give stability, give authenticity. When you give without desperation, you begin to receive without even asking. Think of it like this. Every woman you meet has countless men trying to impress her, flatter her, or chase her. But very few men make her feel deeply. Very few men leave her thinking long after the conversation ends. Very few men calm her storms or awaken her soul. That is your advantage. You don't have to be like everyone else. In fact, you shouldn't. The more you separate yourself from the crowd by going deeper, the less competition you have. She will not compare you because she cannot. Depth is incomparable. To embody this, you must also learn patience. True connection is not rushed. You cannot force trust. You cannot demand loyalty. You cannot manufacture intimacy. These things grow slowly, like roots beneath the soil. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. When you give her time to unfold, when you are patient enough to let her reveal herself layer by layer, she feels safe. And safety is what allows her to give herself fully. And here is a truth most men never hear. Women are not afraid of giving themselves. They are afraid of giving themselves to the wrong man. They have learned through experience that not every man can be trusted with their mind, their heart, and their soul. But when they sense that you are different, when they feel your steadiness, your presence, and your authenticity, they begin to take that risk. And once they do, once they open themselves fully, they are capable of loving with a depth that few men will ever experience. That love is not shallow, it is not conditional, it is not temporary, it is fierce, it is loyal, it is consuming. And it is only unlocked by the man who knows how to touch her in the places that matter most. So ask yourself, are you willing to rise above the noise of mediocrity? Are you willing to silence the distractions, the games, the shallow tactics that others depend on? Are you willing to step into the rare air of authenticity and depth? Because if you are, you will separate yourself from 99% of men. You will become unforgettable not because of tricks, but because of truth. The path is simple, but it is not easy. It requires discipline to keep growing your mind, courage to open your heart, and authenticity to live from your soul. It requires that you let go of fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of vulnerability, the fear of being truly seen. But once you do, you will notice how everything changes. Your relationships, your confidence, your presence in the world, it all transforms. Because the man who has mastered himself can master connection, and the man who has mastered connection becomes irresistible. And remember, connection is not just about her, it is about everyone you encounter. The same presence, the same depth, the same authenticity will make you magnetic in your career, your friendships, your leadership. People are starving for something real, something deep, something rare. Be that rarity, and you will never need to chase, because everything you desire will begin to chase you,